Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully everyone is staying safe in this troubling time. I know I am. I got a lot of popcorn, I'm watching a lot of movies and all that stuff, but one thing that I always have by my side is usually either a Nintendo 3DS or Nintendo 3DS XL, but most of the time, honestly, at this point, it's probably a Nintendo 2DS XL, and I've already talked about really every single Nintendo console, at least portable ones, this year. And the next one in line is the 2DS XL, and every time I pick this console up, I just get so happy and I get so many butterflies, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I feel like a real 13-year-old girl again for some reason. I don't know why, but it really brings me back to my roots, and it makes me reminisce on the good old days. But with the 2DS XL, what's really cool about this is that Nintendo, obviously, they released the 2DS, which I own, and I like kind of. I mean, I understand it has like a place in time, but with the 2DS XL, I feel like it was really that mashup, the 2DS and 3DS combined, and Nintendo did a tremendous job with the 2DS XL, and I love this console a lot. And what's really cool and what's really funny is that in most places, in some places that I've seen, they actually don't even sell the 3DS or the 3DS XLs anymore, not even the newer versions. They actually only carry either the 2DS or the 2DS XL, which is kind of strange how a console can become kind of the backbone and kind of be like an accessory, but end up being the main console that they sell. And I'm sure they sold more 2DS XLs than 3DS XLs, mostly because of the price difference. But surprisingly, and shout out to Nintendo.fandom.com because I get a lot of their information for their videos from their website. And as of February 8th, 2020, the original 2DS was totally discontinued. But with the 2DS XL, really it's the only 3DS console that is still in production worldwide. So apparently they don't even produce the 3DS and 3DS XLs anymore. I just now found that out, which is insane because those used to be the main consoles. It's like Apple like not selling the 11 Pro or the 11 Pro Max anymore and only selling the iPhone 11. Like that would be pretty insane, and that's pretty much almost exactly what happened here. Now looking at the Nintendo 2DS XL, I was about to say iPhone, it's pretty much that same clamshell design as we've seen before. Nothing too crazy has changed, since the beginning of the 2DS XL. What I will tell you though is that if you're not familiar with this design, it can take a little bit of time to get used to be honest. Now it is a little bit thicker than I would have thought before, and up top you have this kind of like a rubber feeling kind of thing, and I actually like it. I think it feels really nice. What's funny is back in the day, the Nintendo DS Lite, when I owned that, there used to be some accessories, I think from Nerf or something like that. If you guys remember the Nerf gun or whatever, like they used to make cases, I think, for the DS Lite or something like that, or maybe it was a different company, but it used to be the same type of rubber texture that was on top. And like I said, what's really funny is that was basically, I think, in some way the inspiration to make this way the way it felt, because not only was it, really good feeling, I like the way it feels, but also was a little bit more durable, and I like Nintendo for doing that. They took a little bit of different approach, but I think it kind of made sense in the long run. So that little top casing feels really nice in my hands, and I still think it, holds up in 2020 for sure. And once you actually open it up, this is where you start seeing kind of some subtle differences between the 3DS lineup and the 2DS lineup, more specifically the 3DS XL and the 2DS XL. Now you do have two screens still, which none of that has changed. It's obviously the same layout. You have a screen up top, which is a 4.8-inch LCD panel. It's 400 by 240 pixels, which is pretty crazy because now we have like 1080p and 1440p panels being probably the bare minimum. But the panel itself really isn't that bad. What's really cool, and one thing I like about it, is that it almost stretches out for, a lot of the top panel compared to a lot of other Nintendo consoles, things like the DSi XL, the 3DS. It's only like a small portion of that top panel. It's usually like 50% screen and like 50% bezel. Whereas on this, it almost kind of looks like the older iPhones in a way if you kind of slant it over. And I think the screen actually looks pretty decent still for a portable gaming console from Nintendo. And I think it actually doesn't look too bad. So the bezel on this thing is still pretty thick, but compared to previous consoles, it's really not that bad. Now on the bottom, you have a little bit of a smaller panel. You have a 4.18-inch resistive touchscreen. The top is not touchscreen, but the bottom is. And with that resistive, obviously it's not multi-touch or anything, but the screens on both these things are really not that bad, which is one thing that surprised me, because going from the 3DS XL to the 2DS XL, I was expecting it to be worse. And even now in 2020, it's not even that bad. Now on the left side, you can see we have that joystick, Joy-Con, whatever you call it. It's not a Joy-Con, it's a joystick. And you have those arrow keys and the power button on the left side. And on the right side, you have that little button up top. I don't remember what it does. You have that A, B, X, Y buttons on the side. the start select buttons, and that really pretty much covers it up on the inside. You also have that front facing camera and that microphone, and I think overall the hardware is still pretty decent. You have obviously the stylus that comes out on the bottom. You have a micro SD card slot, not a full SD card, but a micro SD card slot. You have the game cartridge slot on the bottom, and really the console still feels like a pretty good console to this day and age. You know, it doesn't really feel that old, and it's really not even that old to begin with. I mean, this thing came out in 2017, and it'll be turning 3 years old at this point. And I still think, I mean, it's like up there with the greats. I think it's up there with even the original Nintendo DS Lite. It's not necessarily the best feeling console anymore, but I think for what it brought and what it kind of stood for, I think it honestly has held up quite well, especially considering the time that it's the only 3DS family member that's still being supported, which is pretty insane. Now, when this thing first came out, it cost about that $150 price tag. The Nintendo 2DS, I think, was selling for about $99 or $100. That eventually went down to $80. I've seen a lot of those go for that price around Best Buy and stuff. And I think for this console, $150 is pretty worthwhile for the most part. However, I've seen tons of these things go online for so much cheaper. If you go on eBay, you can probably pick one up for like $60 or $70 if you look hard enough. I've seen a lot of these go for on Amazon too, so you can always pick one up there. I'll leave one linked in the description actually if you want to pick one up there. You can help support the channel at the same time. And when I'm playing a game on this console, whenever I'm doing anything with it, really I only play games on this. I don't use this for anything else. I don't play online games or anything like that. If I'm playing like Super Mario 3D World or anything, whatever games those are, I'm usually almost always playing them on this. But what's really cool, like I've stated before, these things are backwards compatible, so you can still play DS games and DS Lite games and all those. What's really cool is the vast catalog of games that you have on this thing, and that's something that I just love about Nintendo consoles. And eventually when they went to the Switch, obviously that's not a DS, you know, or 3DS successor, so that's not going to be able to be backwards compatible. But with the 2DS, because it still uses that same game cartridge, it's just so seamless, and I love that so much. So with the 2DS XL, you're able to play not only the 3DS games, which I'll get into in a second, but you're able to play those DS Lite and DSi and DS games, original ones that really are just they just have so much life left in them, and they're very, very good games. New Super Mario Bros., the original ones, Super Mario 64, all those games you're able to play on this thing, which is awesome. And even once you step it up to the 3DS games, that's when things start to get super interesting as well. And one thing I love is that recently we just saw that new Animal Crossing come out, New Horizon, which I will hopefully get my hands on. And when you look at something like this, I mean, there's a couple Animal Crossing games that are out for the DS and 3DS that you're able to play on this thing. And there's just so many games out for this thing that if you want to, I would highly recommend picking up. Obviously for the game selection, there's really no other reason not to pick this thing up. It'll still, you know, hold you off for quite a bit. Obviously, if you have the money, you could probably go buy a Nintendo Switch, and you'll probably end up getting better life out of that thing. But the 2DS XL, I think, still has a special place in everyone's heart. And the thing to keep in mind is that, and I'm probably not gonna get in trouble, maybe, I don't know, but you can always modify this thing. You can always put homebrew on it and carry all your backups illegally with yourself and everything, which is a lot of fun. And it really just brings all your game cartridges all in one thing, and you don't have to carry all of them separately. So that's just kind of one thing to keep in mind. Again, even if you don't do that, this console is still worthwhile. But I think at the end of the day, the game selections and just the gaming in general, this console is just up there. So I'll go ahead and end off with the battery life. And this thing actually had not a humongously sized battery, a 1750 mAh battery, but overall it did a pretty decent job with the battery that it had within. Of course, it wasn't like a crazy sized one like I said before, but I think for the most part, it did a pretty good job at the battery life that it had. And I remember the 3DS XL gave me tremendous battery life. Dude, even the DSi XL, that one probably had the best battery life out of all of them. And this one is definitely better than the 3DS XL. So for sure, at the end of the day, if you're going to take this thing on a trip with you, if you're going to keep it with you for a long time, it'll definitely last you for a while. And what's really cool is that this thing, like I've said before, still uses that same proprietary port that the 3DS had, that the DSi had, that even the DS Lite had. So whether you had that same charger from that console or the 2DS or whatever, it's all going to still work, which is really, really nice. So to answer the question, is the 2DS XL still worth it in 2020? Obviously, yes, this console is still completely worth it in 2020. Like I've said before, it has so much life left in it, and there's really not too much to hate on it. Yeah, there's a couple quirks here and there, like, yeah, it's not like the best screens in the world. Maybe it doesn't have the best game selection of any portable console or whatever, which I would probably disagree. I think it's up there. But for the most part, for what you're getting in a console with this specific console, I think this one did a really good job overall. So overall, that really pretty much covers it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. If you own the 2DS XL or if you owned any DS Lite or anything like that, let me know your experience down in the comment section as well. That'll mean so much. I love reading people's experience with gaming consoles and everything. And like I said, if you want to pick one up, links will be down in the description for those. Hit the subscribe button too, that'll mean so much, and check out the links in the description as well, that'll mean so much as well. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.